Good afternoon and welcome to an exciting episode of Let's Go. Today, we're continuing our Traction series where we're discussing with thought leaders the various aspects of the Traction family of books, including EOS and Rocket Fuel. I previously hosted Mark Winters, co-author of Rocket Fuel, and Damon Neth, who's an EOS implementer. And we talked a lot about the visionary and integrator relationships and the roles and the value of EOS, which stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. If you're into Traction or EOS, you're simply interested in growing or scaling a business, this is a series for you. To set the stage for you, later this month, I've got my own integrator, Cisco Sakasa, on tap. And then Kelly Knight, who is the integrator at EOS Worldwide. We're going to talk a lot about the integrator roles. But to be honest, I don't really understand those guys. They're different than me. But today, I get to geek out with a fellow visionary, Mark O'Donnell. Mark is the visionary for EOS Worldwide, a role that he took only 4 months ago. So welcome to the role in the middle of the pandemic, Mark. Yeah. Prior to becoming visionary for EOS, he was a certified implementer at EOS for about 6 years. And before that, he co-founded a company with his brother, which ultimately became the Azure Group, which he grew exponentially and became a 4-time Inc. 5000, Inc. 500 entrepreneur. And I'm super happy to have Mark here with me today. Mark is also very well educated. He's got a degree from Lincoln Tech and from Albright College, and he's got an MBA from Northeastern University. But what I like most about Mark is what I said before. We're kindred spirits, so we're going to have a lot of fun today. Mark, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Kurt.
You're a very brave man. In fact, one of the things that was funny about our prep call is I asked you, what can we talk or not talk about? And you said, Kurt, throw anything at me. In fact, you quoted something from the Colby A index, which I think you guys use a lot of at EOS. And that is that your quick start is off the charts. And that means I can throw anything at you. Let me read a phrase from the quick start from the Colby index. Quick start deals with risk and uncertainty. If you have a high score, you have a high propensity to innovate and improvise, and you tend to take risks without knowing the outcome. So thanks for taking some risk with me, Mark.
Not a problem.
Hey, Mark, we're going to talk a lot about your career and how you ended up at EOS and all that jazz, but let's start with some basics. What is a visionary?
Yeah, so it's interesting because as we're going through, and EOS doesn't generally believe in titles, and we call the seats on our accountability chart, our organizational chart, essentially what the seat and role does. We don't really give fancy titles. So out in the rest of the world, a visionary would essentially be the CEO of the organization. And my roles at EOS Worldwide and the typical prototypical visionary is really all about big ideas, setting the culture and the vision for the organization, some research and development, some PR like this, and any big relationships that happen. And really, that's the role of a visionary in an EOS-run business.
Well, so we talked a little bit about the term integrator, and I mentioned next week I'm meeting with Kelly Knight and also with Cisco Sakasa. They're integrators. What the hell is an integrator?
Well, I think that they are purple flying unicorns because they're so rare to find a great one. And Kelly Knight I'm fortunate to have her as my integrator. So they're the ones who just keep the trains running on time. They're very detail oriented. They're just people who get stuff done. And oftentimes visionaries, we lead very well, but we don't necessarily manage as well as we should or our people deserve. And so the integrator, all of the leadership team members report to that integrator. And from a visionary perspective, we only have one direct report, and that's the integrator. So it becomes a very simple way of doing things. And I like to quote Dan Sullivan, and the way he describes this is that the visionary is making it up, the integrator is making it real, and then the process management line of leaders, sales, marketing, ops, finance, et cetera, they're making it reoccur over and over again. And so just kind of describe what a leadership team does in that way, I think is helpful.
I love it. The terms I like to use are I'm the one who's got the vision and the dream and can kind of create something out of thin air, but my integrator is the one who actually makes it a reality. The analogy I use is I can inspire the troops to take the mountain, and we're going to climb to the top of the peak, but the integrator is the one that's going to tell us, when we're going to begin our summit in order to reach it in time. They're going to make the to-do list and the action items of what we need to bring. They're going to hold people accountable. They're going to assign tasks and all that good stuff. So that's really the real hard work. And ideally we get to do the stuff that we're really good at, which is what you just described. So excited to get into that as well. This is going to sound like an obvious question after we just said that, but why is it so important for entrepreneurial companies to have both sets of skill sets?
So the way having an electrical engineering background, I look at this in terms of polarity and thinking about the positive and the negative. And when you have that positive and negative, what do you have? Spark, right? And so organizations, if they have a great visionary and a great integrator, those two different types of personalities, not that there's friction, but it's this push and pull where all of a sudden you have spark, which causes entrepreneurial growth. And so while I might be making things up, 20 things a day, Kelly's like, okay, well, how do we get this done? Well, here's all the bandwidth we have. Here's everything that's going on. And she's a little bit of a unique integrator in terms of her quick start's pretty long, and she can kind of adapt to my craziness. So it'll be, hey, let's just do some research and development on that or do some testing. And that's really what will cause entrepreneurial growth. It allows me as the visionary to climb the tree on a more regular basis, live in my unique ability, have conversations with entrepreneurs, just really see what's coming around the corner, as opposed to being bogged down in the day-to-day details and kind of in the nitty-gritty. And so it allows me to work on the business. She takes care of some of the in the business stuff and the leadership team. And ultimately, we want our entire team working on the business versus in it. And so just having that bit of dynamic duo causes entrepreneurial growth in a lot of ways.
I appreciate that response. I sometimes tell, from my own experience, I tell many of our clients that the visionary entrepreneur, if not held in check or not having an integrator to counterbalance them, can tend to go in all kinds of different directions. And I used to see it. I would give people a new idea a day, right? Every day we've got something new we're going to work on, and my team wasn't getting anything done. And I became really frustrated. What the hell? Why can't you guys get things done? The reality was I was pulling them in different directions every day.
That's right.
I go specifically to Cisco and say, here's my idea. Mm-hmm. And I might have 10 a day or whatever. And he says, don't stop bringing me ideas, because one out of those 10 or 100 are going to be really good that we want to execute on. And some of the other ones may be really, really good, but we'll have to prioritize and do it over time versus try to boil the ocean today. So
yeah, that's right.
I love the fact that we need both. Now let's talk a little bit about EOS, because that's the driver for a lot of this. And obviously you're the visionary for EOS Worldwide. EOS, again, stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. Gino Wickman created it and wrote about it in the book Traction, and the Traction series of books, which I've got a copy here, and many other ones, including What the Heck is EOS? Some really good stuff. Talk to me about the purpose behind the EOS system and how it's different from other systems.
Yeah, so at the core of EOS is entrepreneurial freedom. And allowing and enabling entrepreneurs to live their ideal life, to really just have the business that they dreamed of when they became an entrepreneur. And so there's a lot of different systems out there. It's all great work. We don't really comment or think about our competition very much, but what I believe as an entrepreneur, what made me very interested in EOS is that it's super, super simple. Any organization can run it. It doesn't take an MBA to get that done. Really, really simple. It's a way to manage all the human energy in your business, to get it all pointed in a singular direction and being executing in a really simple, clear way without all that complexity and noise. And once you execute that, you will achieve the entrepreneurial freedom that you set out to when you started. And we call that the EOS life, that you'll be able to live the EOS life. And that's 5 things for the EOS life. That's doing what you love with people you love, making a huge difference in the world, having making the income that is appropriate to your position, and having time to pursue other passions. And so those 5 things are really at the heart of what EOS is and what we're trying to get those entrepreneurial leaders to experience, starting with them, then their integrators, then their leadership team members, and then ultimately everyone in the business. And we just believe that that will have a huge impact in the world. We'll make a dent in the universe.
You know, I use a phrase with people. I call it my highest and best use. And I've seen another phrase you guys use. You'll have to remind me what it is. But basically, getting the visionary and, as you mentioned, everyone on the team doing what they do very well and probably are passionate about and enjoy. And life is so much better when you're doing what you enjoy, and complement those skill sets with others who are better in those other areas. You mentioned allow you to pursue other passions. When we were prepping, you mentioned your life is just much freer. And you are, I guess I love that term, living the EOS life when you're doing what you enjoy. I also wrote down EOS equals beach. So I'm not sure if that's accurate or not.
It can if that's what you want. It can if that's what you want. When we talk about doing what you love, living in your sweet spot, we use a tool that's called the Delegate and Elevate tool. And so it's 4 quadrants. And it's a really simple process where you just list out all the activities, all the tasks that you've been working on over a specific time period. For me, I like to do this on a monthly basis, list everything out, and then take those activities and categorize them into 4 quadrants. Things that you love and you're great at. It gives you energy, you're passionate about it. Things that you like and are good, where, you know, it's pretty good, but it's kind of just okay. It doesn't have that same kick of passion to it. Things that you don't like and you're good. And then things that you don't like and you're not good at. Categorize all your activities. And then everything in those bottom 2 quadrants that don't like but good and that don't like not goods. Think about really creative ways to delegate them to team members, to automate them, or just delete them because you don't really need to do them anymore. So if you just continuously do that, ultimately at the end of that, you will be doing what you love, because it gets hard over time because you love everything that you're doing, and but you only have a certain amount of time, so you got to pick.
Well, especially early on in our entrepreneurial life, we have to do everything. And so I know for me, and I know I have some head trash around this, and others do as well. We might feel guilty by doing more of what we enjoy and having other people do others. And so we try to overcompensate by doing some of the things we're not very good at. Would you care to comment on that? I don't know if you've seen this similar thing when you work with your entrepreneurial clients.
Yeah, and some of it is about investment versus cost in the way that they think about people, right? If they think about hiring someone as a cost, you're going to be stuck doing stuff you don't love forever. If you think about hiring a person to offload those things that are not in your sweet spot, it's really an investment in your future. Your future self will thank you because you'll get more done, you'll go faster. And, now with fractional support, with virtual assistants, all sorts of different things, which I use pretty extensively, you can get a tremendous amount done. And those investments pay off by 10x and more. And there's really no reason not to do it. But it's a little bit of a risk, right? It makes your hands sweat a little bit to write a check for a couple $1,000s a month if you're just starting out. But if you can do it and you can get creative, find the right people to do that work, you'll be better off. You'll go faster. But think of it as an investment, not a cost, and you'll get there faster.
I like the way you phrase that, investment versus a cost or expense. One of the things that I've seen many times, especially when you think about adding that integrator role, because a really good integrator is going to cost a fair amount of change, more than a couple $1,000s a month. But the conversation goes something like this usually, including myself. I don't think I can afford that.
Yeah.
And then you look back a year later after making that investment in that talented person, and you ask yourself, I don't think I could have afforded not to do it because of my quality of life. My income is usually better. They pay for themselves more often than not.
And I think that's right. One other thing I would add to that, if you're a company who's really just starting out, less than 10 employees, and you're thinking about an integrator, it's okay to have an integrator who is your assistant. You don't have to be a COO level person or president of a company level person. They can be an assistant. They could be someone who's just really good at executing on your ideas and keeping the trains running on time. That's okay too.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you clarified that, because you're right. Sometimes we get into this position where we feel like we need a partner, and partner in a lot of ways. And what we really need is someone to be our execution partner. Is it maybe a good way to put it?
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. So a couple of other things I wanted to touch on. One is to bring this to a 2020 perspective. One of the things that in talking with Mark Winters and Damon Neff, they said that the folks who had a plan, folks who were on EOS, tended to do better during 2020 than those who didn't. And I'd love for your perspective on that, especially with your position at EOS.
Yeah, and it is interesting when COVID hit, mid-March timeframe. All we really did is take the same structure of EOS and we just shortened the meeting pulse, right? Instead of a weekly level 10, we were doing daily meetings and kind of war rooming and having clear, instead of quarterly rocks, we had monthly rocks. And so we just shortened that, what we call the meeting pulse, really, really tight, because it had to be all hands on deck, everyone executing really, really intensely, but it's not an amount of energy that people can keep up for long periods of time. That's one of the reasons why we don't do daily huddles, is because the amount of energy it takes to execute that intensely, it's not entrepreneurial freedom, that is for sure. And very few visionaries want to have anything to do with it. So for that period of time, the initial shocks of COVID, we shortened the meeting pulse. A lot of companies did. We had plans in place and we accelerated right people, right seats. As Warren Buffett made famous, he said, when the tide goes out, it reveals those swimming naked. And most EOS run businesses just had less things to cover over. They had, there's less swimming naked in parts of their businesses, because they've already been working on all these issues. They've been working on right people, right seats. They've been testing their business plans and executing really well. They just had to put it in another gear, and they've done really well. And out of my clients, I will tell you, I've worked with over 85 clients myself. When I became Visionary, I had 26 active clients, I think it was, total. And out of those, only 2 clients had where their business was essentially put on ice. Because, if you're a dental office, they were closed. They couldn't come in. If you have an international distribution business and you're in trouble, right? But they pivoted very quickly, because we used the SWOT analysis, we used rocks, we used the level 10 and IDS to pivot some of the businesses there. But the rest of my companies had their best revenue quarters ever, their best profit quarters ever. And it was really amazing, because you look at the news media and you would think the sky is falling, but here I'm looking at my clients and they're making more money, they're hiring people, they're growing in the midst of COVID. So, and they're in all sorts of different industries. It wasn't just, even restaurants, some restaurants were growing that were running EOS, because they instantaneously, the IDS issue, they pivoted to delivery, and they didn't have it before, and they just moved so fast. Really flexible entrepreneurial businesses. I think just in general, that's what we've seen from an EOS perspective, is that they've just have this execution model that's super flexible, and a lot of companies didn't really skip a beat. Of course, we have the casualties here and there, but
yeah, that's why I love the EOS model so much, because it aligns with what we've been preaching from day one, which is basically we've got to figure out a way, no matter what the news is throwing at us or what people are saying out there. We've got to find a way to survive and thrive this, and so that's been that's why our series is now called Let's Go. It's a no excuses mindset. We've got to figure out a way.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting. Just recently, I reread Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Meaning of Life, and kind of just breaking that down into three things, right? And people don't look for pleasure; they want meaning. And what does that mean? Well, number one, it's they have to have a clear plan, a purpose, a project that they're working on, right? Every EOS company has rocks and plans and goals. And it's about reframing your current circumstances, right? And I've had so many clients check in with, I'm grateful to COVID for, as they started their day. And they're grateful to COVID for getting rid of all their customers they didn't really want in the first place. They're grateful to COVID for revealing holes in their recruiting process. They're grateful to COVID for so forth and so on. And so they just completely reframed all that. And the third thing that he talks about in that book is surrounding yourself with people you love, which is our second part of the EOS life. And that's just people who share your core values. They believe what you believe. They're on the same mission as you. And that would be the other thing that we noticed during the initial stages of COVID with an EOS run business, is that they were already surrounded by people who shared their core values. And so they behaved in such a way that nobody was like pushing against one another. Everyone was just all in, and they were helping one another, protecting one another, doing what's right for each other, all the while executing. So it just really had a powerful impact when the tide went out.
Man, first of all, that's a beautiful thing when everyone's rowing in the same direction. Second of all, you gave me another visual that I don't appreciate. You gave me a visual of all my clients naked in the water, and I don't really like it.
Yeah, well, we don't want most of those visuals.
Hey, so let me ask you a little bit about the Visionary title, and I don't know if you've seen this through your years, but look, I don't consider myself a visionary just because that feels the grandiose. But I know I'm not an integrator. But I don't feel like you hear visionary, you think Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, whatever. So it might be head trash. Tell me a little bit about that and how that hits you or how it hits some of your clients.
And I do have quite a few clients who are like, I'm just not particularly visionary. Like, well, okay, so let's dig into that a little bit. Are you setting the culture and the pace of your business? Yeah, I'm doing that. Okay. Are you, do you belong to EO or Vistage, and are you listening to podcasts? Are you trying to learn and grow and get better? Yep, I'm doing all that. Okay. So, do you do some experiments? Do you do some research and development? Yep, I'm doing that. Okay. So it's funny because they're just uncomfortable with the status of the words. And, I am too. I am too. I'd rather just, be that guy that helps out sometimes.
Yeah.
But from a leadership perspective, it's okay to be called the visionary of the organization. It's okay to be called the CEO of the business, because that's what you are. And people want you to fill that void and step up and be the leader. So I think it's just a little bit of the uncomfortableness of the responsibility and the status of what it is.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's mostly head trash, and I'll fully admit that. And part of it is just feels grandiose, but that's helpful. Hey, so when we were talking the other day, you mentioned you were an engineer. I'm a CPA, but I'll be the first to admit I'm a bad CPA. So I felt like we had we were kindred spirits. My skills are elsewhere, which is why I've now got a different role. I don't want to presume that you're a bad engineer, because you probably aren't, but tell me a little bit about how your other skill sets help you do what you do.
Yeah. And that's funny. As we were talking about in the show prep and things like that, I was actually a very good engineer. And for people who are listening and know Colby profiles, mine is 2-2-10-3. So that's like the prototypical. If you said, give me a non-engineer Colby profile, or give me a, something that would be disastrous, it would probably be mine. Where I just have low energy for facts and follow through, but I have a lot of energy for risk. And, engineer and pharma with a high propensity for risk is probably not a good idea. But those are all skill sets that over time have become really invaluable to me, because as a lot of the role that I had at Johnson & Johnson and GlaxoSmithKline was really about project management and working with people and moving really, really big things forward. And there's a lot of experimentation there and real-time R&D, trying to get things up and running and rolling and meeting manufacturing requirements. So there's a lot of creativity in all of that. And I think there's for people who are just naturally hardwired to be an entrepreneur, they don't like the details, they don't like all that. I think where I've really gained an advantage is that I was forced to be okay with the hard work of the details and documenting processes and just doing some things that are just against my natural inclinations because, well, for me, lives were literally at stake. We were working on drugs for newborn babies. And if I missed one decimal place in a 300-page document, that could mean someone's life. And so it forced me to be okay doing the hard work of things I didn't particularly like. And then looking forward for the luxury of the day I didn't have to, which just made me more excited about being an entrepreneur and all that. So it's just really kind of an interesting thing. I think over your life, you learn all these things and you take all that learning forward with you. And you just continuously follow those, what I call the divine hints of your unique ability, your God-given talent.
I appreciate that. I love the God-given talent, and if we can find that, if people can find that, it's really liberating in so many ways. Hey, we got about 3 or 4 minutes left. Let me give you some speed questions. And like we said before, with your quick start, I can throw anything at you. So you tell me where you want to start. You want to start with politics, religion, sex? Where do you want to start?
Anywhere you want. Doesn't matter to me.
Actually, I do have let me ask you, what are some tips for an integrator, somebody who's not a visionary, to work with you, Mark? And I'll ask you a follow-up question.
Yeah. So just be open to the possibilities and don't be afraid to push back. So be open to that might be a thing that takes this business to the next level. And by the way, just so you know, there's these 14 other projects we're working on, and which one do you want to delete? And be okay with the open conversation and be back and forth, collaborative way of doing it.
You know, you touched on something that I want to make sure our visionary viewers also keep in mind. If they're really going to be successful, if you, the viewer who's a visionary entrepreneur, are going to be successful, you have to be open to an integrator pushing back and saying no and helping you prioritize. Because if you're allowed to chase every rainbow, you're not going to be successful. And that's probably part of the frustration that you currently have.
Yeah, you just won't go as fast as you want to.
So I've got Kelly coming on in a few weeks. Kelly Knight's your integrator. Tell me a couple of questions I should ask her. And I'm going to ask her a lot of questions about you that you're not going to tell me that's okay to ask, but tell me some questions I should ask her.
Yeah. So, ask her, because I'm the 3rd generation EOS Worldwide visionary. And so there's different types of visionaries. And, so like Gino and Mike Payton, they're more of like, go to the mountaintop, get the answer, come down and say, this is what we're doing now type visionary. And I'm much more collaborative. I joke that I'm always talking to myself, and every once in a while, someone else is involved. It's usually on the other end of that, me talking to myself. So I think it would be interesting to ask her, having been the integrator for multiple visionaries, what the differences are.
I love it. You're right. There's different approaches to all those things. And we all feel like we have to be in a bucket, but we don't. All right. So that's a fun question. Tell me something about you that we wouldn't know from reading your LinkedIn profile.
Oh, that's a good question. I'm a black belt. So not many people, my clients sometimes know that, but it's not on my LinkedIn profile. Very
cool. So this isn't a 6 Sigma black belt, like you're operationally efficient. This is a true, very nice.
That's right.
Well, I won't mess with you then. That's for sure. Well, you're a true black belt, you won't be aggressive. You'll just defend yourself, right?
Or run's fine.
All I care about is being faster than the guy I'm next to. That's all I care about. So the bear can catch them. All right, Mark, is there anything else you'd like to add before we break today?
No, for any entrepreneurs who are listening that are running EOS, know that the tools we teach are so deep, way deeper than they appear on the surface. They just feel like they're super simple and there's not much there. But when you dig deep, know that our mission is to get you to live the EOS life, to do what you love with people you love, making a huge difference in the world, being compensated appropriately, and having time to pursue other passions. Starts with the entrepreneur, works its way down. And so don't, be okay with living those things, and your family deserves it. Your employees deserve it. The world deserves you to live that way. So that's the last thing I would say.
Well, I'm going to make you say something else because you just triggered a thought. We haven't talked about Gino Wickman's new book that's coming out sometime next year. Would you like to talk about that a little bit? Yeah. Speaking of EOS Life.
Speaking of EOS Life, so Gino is writing a book right now. So it's called the EOS Life. And it's about entrepreneurs living the life that they want, that they have been working for. And it will be available for pre-order, I think, winter 21, and then for sale September of 2021. And I have a secret mission to have 50,000 pre-orders on Amazon because I just think we'll just have a huge impact in the world. And
well, you'll have one pre-order from me, so consider yourself partially there on your.
So I've already done the pre-read, and it's absolutely worthwhile.
Awesome. Well, anything that gets me doing what I enjoy doing and the things that I am good at, and I can be well compensated for it with people that I love, that's say no more. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate what you guys are doing for the entrepreneurial community. Keep up the great work. For all of you out there, thank you for joining us today. We're going to continue on next week with our attraction series, where I'll have Cisco Sakasa, who is the integrator at HireBetter. And then after that, we've got Kelly Knight, the integrator at EOS Worldwide. So lots of good stuff out there. As we said before, if you get a visionary and integrator working well together, it is truly like putting rocket fuel in your jet engine. So until next week, keep that no excuses mindset. We've got to find a way, and no excuses. So let's go.